In this episode of the Grand Tour, I do something pretty special. I trace one of the most legendary railroads there's ever been. Some even say fabled. I trace the full length of the Rio Grande Southern, from Ridgway down to Durango, through the stunning San Juan Mountains, and finding remnants along the way. I'm literally touching history, so please, join me as I trace truly hallowed ground of Colorado narrow gauge. This is episode 11 out of my solo trip tracing the Rio Grande from Salt Lake City to Denver. If you haven't seen already, please see the other videos in the playlist. Please see my channel and subscribe. Please leave comments and like, and please share videos if you can at all, and I'd be hugely grateful. And if you do that, and we ever meet, I don't know, I'll buy you a Twix. But thank you for joining me on the Grand Tour.
Well, today's the day. I'm in Ouray. Didn't mean to rhyme. Today, I'm going places I've never been before to see something that isn't there anymore. Fun, eh? Tracing the legendary Rio Grande Southern. I've got my guide, which I've written myself. Got a lot of pictures to match up with what I see today. First stop, although it's Denver Rio Grande Western, Ouray Depot. Let's go find it. Well, it's not there anymore, but let's go and see where it was.
I'd stayed the previous night in the beautiful town of Ouray, which actually was the end of the line for the Denver and Rio Grande Western, the much bigger brother to the Rio Grande Southern. But it's still significant as Ouray was named after Chief Ouray of the Ute tribe. That's him on the left. And he worked closely with Otto Mears on the right. Otto was well known for building railroads and highways in places that no one else would dare to go. And it was him that built the Rio Grande Southern. Now I've just turned left from Main Street onto 7th Avenue, where I turn right at the bottom to be in line with 8th Avenue. Over to the eastern side, that's Cascade Falls, where I had quite a dangerous walk in the last video. But on the western end of 8th Avenue, where there's now an RV park, that is where the Denver Rio Grande Western Depot used to be.
And then we come into 4J +1 +1 RV Park. What kind of a name is that? And right here, this is the site of Ouray Depot. And this road here was the path of the Rio Grande, the Denver and Rio Grande Western, which we're going to follow up to Ridgway, and then from there we'll follow the Rio Grande Southern. So yeah, here our train journey begins in our minds. So we're following this road, which was the route of the railroad. We'll try and follow this as far as we can through the RV park. The main road into Ouray, which we came in yesterday, is over to the right on the other side of the river. However, the railroad was on this side.
So you can follow this road, which is Oak Street, or County Road 17, which was the railroad path, until around about here where it crosses over and joins Highway 550. The railroad did carry on the left, but we're going to follow Highway 550 into Ridgway.
Floor it.
Just to get our bearings, let's have a look at the old Rio Grande map. This whole circuit here was the narrow gauge section, and the top side being the 3rd Division and the bottom side being what was known as the 4th Division, or the San Juan extension. And over to the western side, connecting Durango to Ridgway, was the Rio Grande Southern, and you can see Ouray just below Ridgway there. Now the Rio Grande Southern was a separate company to the Denver Rio Grande Western, but due to bankruptcy, it was sort of adopted and taken under the control of the bigger Denver Rio Grande Western for much of its existence.
This place called Rocky Mountain Cannabis.
In Ridgway, I stopped at the Ridgway Railroad Museum.
In a quarter mile, turn right onto North Railroad Street.
I did visit the museum the day before and was given a personal guided tour, which was really great. That was episode 9 of the Grand Tour.
There's the old depot building on the right.
But the original station depot still stands.
There's the museum.
And this is pretty much on the spot where the Rio Grande Southern started from.
Woohoo! So this is pretty much where the original line went. That is an original milepost. This way is north. The d&rgw went off to the right, up towards Montrose. The Rio Grande Southern went to the left. And quite a wiggly track around there, and then meets where the current modern day highway is at Dallas Divide. This way, facing south, that's the original Ridgway depot, and it's that way to Ouray, d&rgw.
Now looking at this picture, the mountains seem right, but the building doesn't seem to match. But we'll find out why in a second. Now before we continue, I've got to show you this map. This was suggested to me in a Facebook group before I took the trip, and it was hugely helpful. This is put together by a collaborative effort of volunteers. It has so much detail and can be found at a website, which I will give you the link to. I've been given permission to use this in the video as well, so in return, please go and have a look at the website. There's other RGS resources on there too. It's really great to see. Go and check it out. So here, looking at the Ridgway Railroad Museum, you can see their circuit of track here. Where I was stood next to the milepost, you can see the railroad actually went just over to the left. That was the Denver Rio Grande Western line, and then further over to the left, that was the Rio Grande Southern. And you can see they both came through and went either side of the depot building. Now you can see the position of the depot building has changed. At some point it was moved and turned 90 degrees, so it now sits over here. That's why recent pictures don't line up with pictures from back in the day.
This is the original Ridgway depot building. Previously it's been turned into a house, but now it's a museum. And I have a picture of back in the day. But you can't see them because of the trees, but the mountains are in the wrong place. So, if you look behind the building, where the museum is, and you can see the mountains now are the right shape.
So that's enough time in Ridgway, let's get out of here. The railroad heading north and then turning left. You can see the impression of a roundhouse and a turntable here, and also where the track used to go, heading away from the town. The railroad went off into the hills to begin its climb. I'll be going along the Highway 62. My next stop will be at San Juan Mountains Scenic View, and the railroad would join from the north and we'll go through together through Dallas Divide. Incidentally, this is where locomotive 455 had its famous crash, if you know about that.
Railroad line goes that way to the north and then round to the west, Wiggly Road, and then we're going to rejoin it at San Juan Mountains Scenic View, which is about 7 and a bit miles away. Let's go! So Ridgway down there. This is San Juan Mountain Scenic View. And there is the San Juan Mountains. Apparently Ralph Lauren owns this land. Over Dallas Divide to Placerville.
Moving on, this is Dallas Divide, which is a stretch over the hill as we head towards Placerville. Here's an old picture. The viewpoint I just stopped at is round the bend to the left, and that peak there on the left, you can recognise that if you look back at what I saw from the viewpoint. Here we go, from the viewpoint, here's Dallas Divide, roughly where that picture I just showed was taken. And then we carry on down the road towards Leopard Creek, and then we join the San Miguel River, which takes us into Placerville.
Continue on Colorado 145 south for half a mile.
So here's the approach to Placerville, which, yeah, the trees have grown a lot more, but you can sort of make it out by the shape of the hill just behind there, and the river right here. How nice is this? Heading through Placerville. On to Telluride.
As we make way for the next destination of Telluride, I did mention briefly earlier of a Facebook group which was very helpful. That group was Railroads of the San Juan Mountains. A number of members gave me some good tips before I made my trip, and most of the old photos I'm using in this video were found on that group, and a number of them been colorized by Richard Crabtree, the admin of the group. So thank you to him, thank you to the other members, and if you're on Facebook, go and have a look. So where are we going? Heading away from Placerville. The highway and the railroad flow pretty closely. The railroad just to the right most of the way. Just through Sawpit we were on the same line for a little while, but then the railroad goes off to the right again. Then round about Telluride Airport, the railroad went off to the right down through the centre of the valley, and down that way was what's known as Vance Junction, where the railroad spurred off to a branch line which switched back on itself, climbing up, and then made its way towards Telluride.
Going through Sawpit, 12 miles from Telluride.
Now this is looking down through the valley towards what was Vance Junction down the middle. Now I was caught off guard here, I didn't realise I was looking at Vance Junction. This was still 5 miles outside of Telluride. I didn't realise it was that far out, but luckily I had my camera on to catch the nice scenery, and only realised where it was afterwards. Here's Vance Junction as it was, easily recognisable as I had this old coach just left on the side. I don't know what they used it for, if anything. If you look just above the roof of the Galloping Goose, that line looks to be the highway that I just filmed from. Here was a split-second decision to pull over to a viewpoint, and I was really glad I did. This is Keystone Hill Overlook, which is right about here.
We are here. There's the railroad. At Keystone. I must say, they really should trim these trees if they want the lookout post to work.
Now this was one of my favourite photos I took out my whole trip. 1, the scenery is just stunning, look at it. And 2, that dirt track over to the right, that's the old rail path. I'm actually looking at the Rio Grande Southern. Probably not much different to how it was back in the day, just minus some rails.
There we are, that's it, that's the Rio Grande Southern. circle. Onwards to Telluride.
As we take the roundabout, or sorry, traffic circle, which is the junction to Telluride, you can see the railroad comes pretty close to the highway. And then it goes damn near dead straight into the south side of the town. Then we're going to look out for Depot Alley and Depot Avenue, where we just might find a depot.
Coming through Telluride now, and we have to turn off to the right to find...
Take the next right onto South Townsend Street, then you will arrive at your destination.
We have to turn off to the right to find Depot Alley, which is where... oh, and there it is! There's the depot. Bit of a building site.
You know, if you see someone holding a bike helmet, you know what you could say to them? I can tell your ride. Sorry, that's terrible. Up behind the depot station is the cable car, or gondola, as they're called. That's a free public service which goes up to Mountain Village, I think it is. I was expecting the depot to be Aha School for the Arts, but that's obviously no more, and the building's having a huge amount of work done to it. I later found out it's becoming Telluride Science and Innovation Centre. There was also some houses being built across the street, so there was a fair bit going on. So away from all the busy building work, I found this. Yeah, just up the street I found a little pathway which went to the riverside, and suddenly you feel like you're right outside the town. So I could wander up and have a look at the other side of the building. And you can see how big this job is. Apparently they started around about November 2022 and should be finished quite soon, about June 2024. Before leaving, I had a quick look up the street and found that things were starting to get a bit busy. But I did notice that the local buses actually pay a nice tribute to the old railroad. Look at that, the local buses are called Galloping Goose.
That's Telluride.
If I'd thought about it, I could have gone to the back end of town, way up the end of the line, where there was the Pandora Mill, which still stands today. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but you can do that if you want. So anyway, we're going off out of Telluride, back down past Vance Junction. I'm taking the main highway up on the top of the valley, where the railroad would have been down below. Then carrying on, we'll meet at Ophir, the famous Ophir Loop.
Leaving Telluride, 12 miles from Ophir. There you go, so outside Telluride, down in the valley, Vance Junction is somewhere down there. Ah, ears are popping. Not even at the summit yet. Miles. Oh yeah, let's have a stop.
just a little way, well, round the corner from Ophir. There's a little viewpoint here. So we're looking from San Juan Mountains scenic overview across the way to where the railroad headed south, where it crossed over to the far side of the valley, where it climbed up towards Ophir, and then made a loop with a big trestle, dropping into Ophir and then turning back on itself and continuing the climb, clinging on with precarious rocks and lots of trestles. Here's how the approach into Ophir looked back in the day. The modern day highway is now just above the upper level. Down there looks very much like a railroad grade. This is another of those moments of realization where this railroad, I've read stories, I've seen pictures, I've seen old footage, and I'm near 5,000 miles away from home, but I'm actually here looking at it. It's quite incredible. I found just a little further down the road there was another lay-by, and so it was a good spot to get a bit more of a closer view. Look there, see the modern highway on the top level, just below where the railroad went. Might even be a trestle. Well, I noticed this, and it's not a trestle, it's a pipeline of some sort, but it's definitely in place of a trestle. In fact, look at this picture a little further out. I reckon it's the trestle to the far right of this picture I showed earlier. If you look at the landslip just to the left of it, I reckon that matches. What do you think? We're comparing two pictures from 123 years apart. I'm standing. Just get down. Rocks are a bit jagged. I'm okay. Heading into Ophir then. Here's a picture from pre-1900. It was still early days, so there was a lot still to be built, but it gives you an idea of the layout. See how the loop goes round. Notice the big trestle on the left and the depot building in the centre. Here it comes. There's Ophir. As we approach, we can look across the way and see the lower line, which fed in from the north and then came across on the big trestle into the loop. Now, the building of this highway has changed the landscape considerably, so you really have to think to work out what was where. But there are a couple of points of reference, so we can make some sense. Now, this road I'm turning into, yes, it has been changed quite a bit since back in the day, but it is the road that went just to the left of the depot building. And this would have gone on back to Vance Junction. It's doing a 3-point turn. It's a long way down that way. But as I say, it's not quite the same as how it was. Whoa. Looking over to the other side of the highway, you can see the roof of a building. That's our main reference. That's what was the Oilton Club Saloon, or some say Gilton Club. And as you can see, it used to have a nice view looking straight through the valley, but now the modern highway is much higher, cutting right across through the depot building on the left and the general store on the right. That there is Gilton House. Some say Oilton House. It's about the last remaining structure from back in the day. The general store would have been just over to the right, about behind where that road closed barrier is. And then railroad on the trestle to the right again. There is one other structure that still stands. If you look up behind the general store, that metal structure, that's the Silver Bell Mine. And so it appears, someone still lives there.
This massive bank is new. That wasn't there before.
As I head back to the car, one last look at the view. I'll zoom in a bit. And a bit more. I can clearly imagine a train just coming around and approaching the station.
Why would someone leave their socks right there? Okay, that's Ophir Loop done. It's tricky with the highway here.
Take the next right onto Colorado 145 South.
Yes, that's where I'm going. But
For 3 miles.
on to Trout Lake. So as we come up from Ophir, the railroad would have been just down the bank to the right.
Coming away from Ophir then, the railroad was just slightly down the bank from where the modern highway is, and a little further down it came across the highway, and then this section is actually a dirt track you could follow if you choose to. But then we head down to Trout Lake, where the railroad went alongside the lake before hooking back and climbing up to Lizard Head.
Trout Lake. Wow. Wow, that's nice. I think that path over on the left is the railroad bed. Then we join it.
Needless to say, Trout Lake is stunning. And we follow the railroad grade right the way up to the back, where we find a trestle.
Wow, that's nice. Oh, and I can see the water tower.
And there's a remaining water tower along the way as well.
What a stunning lake. There it is. There we go, that could have been a galloping goose. But it's not. Well. Right, I would recreate that picture with the galloping goose, but there's a massive tree in the way. They are historic structure. Stay off. There's the railroad tracks leading up to my car. There it is.
This trestle is very significant, because out of the many trestles the railroad had, this is the last one to still be standing. And they say you shouldn't go on it, but I had to touch it. While I was there was a couple of women out cycling, and they wanted to have a picture of themselves with the mountains behind them, those just up on the right. I offered to take the picture for them, and I said if you take one for me, and they went, oh yeah, of course. So I took their picture, we swapped cameras, and then we didn't swap positions, because I wanted a picture in the complete opposite direction. I said, we've clearly got different interests.
Right, Trout Lake, done. See that flat path up there? Up there, there. That's the line up to Lizard Head. So let's meet it up there.
Yep, so I'm heading back down the road I came, past the water tower, past the lake, back out onto the highway. Then making my way up the hill to Lizard Head Pass, which is the summit, the highest point on the whole railroad. As we approach into Lizard Head Pass, if you look over to the left, just in front of those trees, you can see a dirt road. That was the railroad grade.
So, Trout Lake down there. Lizard Head Pass.
From where I parked, if you look opposite, that's where the turning Y was, and all of this was under snow sheds. Then up this end you can see what used to be the railroad is now the modern highway. And back up here you can do a trail if you want, as you can see, Galloping Goose Trailhead. Here's a view of how it was. My car would be parked just off to the left of this photo. While I was there was a bit of drama as this lorry came screaming up the hill with smoke bailing out of its bonnet. It pulled over and two other lorries pulled up to assist. What is actually Lizard Head is a very distinctive mountain peak, which is actually behind the peak that we can see here. There's a couple of information boards here. One side tells a little bit of history of the Rio Grande Southern, in particular about the snow sheds, which was situated here. The other side shows where the trail goes, and if you're feeling up to it, you can walk all the way back to Vance Junction. So now we begin the descent down to Rico, our next destination.
Okay, on from Lizard Head Pass, you have to go a little further along to actually see Lizard Head, which is up that way somewhere. Hopefully, that's it.
So sadly, I didn't actually see Lizard Head because I was more focused on a lorry which came right up my butt and made me think I was in that movie Duel by Steven Spielberg. It was a bit scary. I wasn't even going slow. But this is Lizard Head. You can see up in the back there. And this train heading north into Lizard Head Station.
That's a little scary.
Yeah, there he goes. Maniac! So if you want to see Lizard Head, it's probably easier if you're travelling north. Here's Lizard Head Pass where I stopped. If you come a little bit down the road, round about here, you can look up and see Lizard Head. There it is. Going away from Lizard Head, the railroad went off to the left just a little bit, and then away round a loop over Gallagher's Trestles, 2 of them, and then there are some sleepers or ties still there to see. And the railroad came back across and joined the highway, and we pretty much follow, like for like, down to Rico. And in Rico, there's something to find. So up on top of the bank there on the left, that's where the railroad went away from us. And then just along here is where the railroad came across from a trestle and joined the highway again.
See a level path over to the left, which is coming to join us now.
In a quarter mile, turn left on East Manzano.
That was me just spotting where the railroad had gone off to the side and then lined up with us again.
So we're coming into Rico, and we want to get, heading south as we are, we want to get a couple of streets over
Take
to
the
the
next
right.
left onto East Mance Avenue, then you will arrive at your destination. Take the next left onto East Campbell Street, then turn left onto
Shut
South
up.
Commercial Street.
Done with you, wench. Right.
Alright, so coming into Rico, the railroad went across to the western side of town. We obviously come through on the highway through the centre of town. Now it seems that each road stepping away from the highway get progressively poorer quality, and we've got to go to the one furthest away, which is Hancock Street. It's a very bumpy road, so be careful if you go there. But in Hancock Street, we'll find a water tower which still stands, and you can see the position of the old depot building, which is just crossing over where this road is now. And then there's an engine house, load of sidings, turning wide to the south, and further down there were some stock pens. And then up this side of town there was a lot of zigzag tracks going up into the hills to access all these facilities up here, so there's quite a lot going on.
Anybody see a water tower?
Okay, well, this was about 3 streets back from the main road. I call them streets. It's a dirt road. A very bumpy one too. But that is Rico Water Tower. Where we're standing, there was one track that came this side of the water tower and then up behind the depot building. As you can see, back in the day, most action happened on the other side, on the front side. And you can see the engine house up in the back there as well. Try and get a view in front. There's one more road going back this way. So I'll try and sneak in here. Nope, too many trees. Yeah, I was trying to get an angle a bit like this. No luck. Walking back, I saw these lines in the road and I thought, jokingly to myself, railroad ties. But look, they're actually made of wood. So that's exactly what they are. Oh look, a spare tie. Right, on to Dolores. Actually, while we're here, up behind my car used to look like this, with a Pro Patria mill.
See you later, Rico. On to Dolores. Oh, it's a seriously bumpy ride. Wow!
Coming away from Rico, it's quite some distance to the next destination of Dolores. It's 37 miles. And for most of the way, the railroad was sort of close to where the highway is now, up until around about Memorial Rock here, where just afterwards, the modern highway is pretty much the old railroad grade. And coming into Dolores, that becomes Railroad Avenue, where we have to look out for the old depot building with a galloping goose outside. You can see where the depot building used to be and where it is now. That's also the Galloping Goose Historical Society.
Now coming into Dolores. We're on Railroad Avenue? Railroad Drive? Yeah, Railroad Avenue. So this is pretty much where the railroad came in, through into town. I see a goose.
Your destination is on the right.
Oh yeah. Hey, Goosey. It's a goose.
Well, I made it to Dolores. It's the Galloping Goose Historical Society. And they're open. They close at 5, I think. Got an hour. This depot's not only in a different position, but it's actually not the original. It's a replica built by the Galloping Goose Historical Society in 1991. Here's the original building, obviously in its original position a bit further forward. This picture shows the line of the railroad, which is almost exactly in line with where I was driving down the avenue, just before I turned off to the right. So you can see the depot building, so now you can picture where the replica is. Just sort of in line with that shed behind. Just as I arrived, the lady running the place had popped out to run an errand, so I had a look around the building and took lots of photos as well. You know, for modelling reference. Uh-oh, someone didn't check the gauge. Once, I didn't catch her name sadly, had returned from the errand, I went inside. She was a very friendly lady, was very impressed that I'd come from all the way from the UK and knew all about the RGS. So we had a good chat. But in the museum, they got loads of models and artifacts and information about the Rio Grande Southern. It's really interesting to look around. These larger models of the Galloping Geese are actually made by Accucraft, and are 1/20th scale. And I've actually got the same model of Goose 7. Look, that's it running around my garden back in England. On the subject of models, they've got this super model of Dolores as it was back in the day. Or actually, very specifically, May 16th, 1946. This model's made up from photos taken during an excursion by the Rocky Mountain Railroad Club. It's excellent. So after having a look around, having a good chat, spending some money in the shop, It became 5 o'clock and it was time to close the museum, so I was off. One more stop before Durango.
Well, that was really nice. So, the lady in there, very passionate about the subject, preserving the history. Chatted with her quite a lot. They got nice, interesting stuff in the museum, and I spent some money in the shop. A hat, a book, and a metal sign. So, if you're visiting, either buy something or just leave a few dollars in the pot. So, we're going along to Mancos now. We're going along Railroad Avenue, and then to keep kind of close to what the railroad did, you need to go left on the 184 to Mancos.
Out of Dolores, the railroad swung around through what is now Ballpark and entered Lost Canyon Creek. I'm taking the 184 just slightly to the south. As you can see, the railroad stayed right down in the creek and followed all the way. There are a couple of places where you can follow a minor road and get close to where the railroad grade is, or was, but more so to the eastern end of the creek, where there's quite a few more roads that you can follow. And these roads come up from Bear Lake? How do you say it? I'm not quite sure. Down here, there it is. Bear Lake. And then the railroad came along, joined us on the 184 for a little bit, and then it went round to the west. And then it swung around into the town. Now I'm going to come along and stop by Family Dollar, where you can see there was the water tower and the depot building.
Durango is to the left. I'm actually going to go right just a little way because I think that is where the depot was. So I'm in Mancos and I've stopped off at Family Dollar of North Willow Street. Why? Because right there in the road, just to the left of the stop sign there, was where the water tower was. And just over there was where the depot building was. So there, just about, see the hill line behind, matches up with the picture I've got. This is Mancos Station. How cool! I'm stood in a ditch, but yeah, the things I do for you. Alright, so we're back on the 160, heading east, towards Durango.
Out from Mancos, we're on the last leg of our journey. The railroad went slightly north of the 160 and then went all wiggly. Then as we head towards Hesperos, it came close and crossed over. I came off the 160 and took a detour down the 140. As you can see, it's a little closer to where the railroad used to go. And then I took the 125 across this way and rejoined where the railroad went over here. Now if you want to, you can head south down to d&rgw Drive, which pretty much follows the railroad grade. Interesting, because it was the Rio Grande Southern, not the Denver Rio Grande, but never mind. But I went up the 141, up this way, which is pretty much, well, very close to the railroad grade. And up this way you can see, up on your left, you can see a ledge where the railroad used to go. Then at Lighter Creek, you can see the line came over a big trestle before looping round. And that trestle was adapted to accommodate the highway being built going through it. The middle section was taken out and replaced with a steel bridge. And then finally, we approach and arrive at Durango.
road heading up to the 160. Loosely follows the path of the Rio Grande Southern. Wiggles off a little bit side to side, but near enough. It's getting a little rockier again. I think that ledge up on the left might be the railroad. Now we're joining the 160 again, off to the right, but looking to the left, that was Lighter Creek.
Continue on US 160 East for 2 miles.
And there was a trestle where it went across, the final bit of wiggling around, and then straight down into Durango, which is where we nearly are.
As we enter Durango, we cross a bridge over the Animas River. Here's a train leaving Durango, and you can see the bridge behind is the highway. It's a different bridge there now, a much more subtle one. Here you can see the two bridges crossing over the river. The railroad entered the south side of the Durango yard, and then rejoined the Denver and Rio Grande Western. To the north is the Silverton branch. To the south, going through Carbon Junction, to Charmer, to Antonito, and on to Alamosa. The Silverton branch now, of course, is the Durango and Silverton Railroad, which I'll be riding the next day.
In 600 feet, your destination will be on the right.
There's the General Palmer Hotel where I'm staying tonight. And this is the rails up to Durango and Silverton. I literally just got here in time. Parked up and they're preparing for the train to arrive. I hear something coming and I'm disappointed. It's a diesel. Oh well, let's watch it come in. That doesn't sound right. Not on the Durango and Silverton. I know they have their reasons, and I'm not going to say they shouldn't, but no way will I ever ride the Durango and Silverton on a diesel.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy, it being a diesel, as you can tell by my face.
Hi.
Now, just one more thing. But first, picture this. I'm in America for 2 weeks, travelling by myself. My mission for those 2 weeks, my entire purpose in life for those 2 weeks, is to trace railroad history. And on this day was the pinnacle of my trip. So, it meant quite a lot to me. And with that in mind, after I'd rested in my hotel room for an hour, yeah, this happened.
So, I've done it. Hang on. There you go. I've actually done it. 9 hours. Started off from Ure, 9 o'clock, just about 9 o'clock. And I've traced the Rio Grande Southern. I parked into the General Palmer Hotel car park about 6:15. Got out the car,
when I take my bags out the car to check in, and I just thought to myself, did I just do that? I'm from England. A lot of enthusiasts in America don't even get the chance to do this. God, how amazing. Beautiful places. Yeah, that was special. Well, from that watery-eyed idiot, thank you for watching the video. This was a lot of work, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Please subscribe to the channel, please see my other videos, please leave a comment, I want to hear from you, and please just give a like. In the next episode, I'll ride the Durango and Silverton Railroad, and then there's more American railroad adventures to come. So look out for that, and I'll see you soon.